We move on now to our Kraken, who are playoff bound. They wrapped up the regular season over the course of the past week with 2 games on the road and 1 game at home to finish things up. They play tomorrow. We'll get into this past week. April 10th versus the Coyotes on the road, a 4-1 win. Our player of the game for Jared McCann-Kenner, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, a 1 plus minus, and 7 shots on the day. With he hit 40 goals, pardon me, not 50. That would be cool. He hit 40 goals on the season. That is the first time a Kraken player has ever done that. He is also the Kraken all-time leading goal scorer. With that victory, the Kraken became the second fastest franchise in NHL history with a 100-point campaign within their first 2 seasons behind the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Then we go over here, the final road game of the regular season, a 4-1 loss to the Golden Knights. Our player of the game forward, Yanni Gordo, 1 goal, 1 point, 1 shot, 4 hits, 1 block, and 1 takeaway. April 13th versus the Golden Knights, Fan Appreciation Day, the final game of the regular season, the final home game of the regular season, a 3-1 loss. Unfortunately, the Golden Knights, that game score padded by the empty netter that Vegas had. This game, after about the second intermission or so, we found out that with the LA Kings win, that the Kraken couldn't move up any further, so it didn't matter for them in terms of seeding. Vegas was still playing to take the top spot in the Pacific Division and the Western Conference, and they were able to do so with that win. Our player of the game forward, Morgan Geekie, 1 assist, 1 point, 4 shots, and 1 block. We'll go over here we have 2 photos from this game against Las Vegas, 2 photos of the match. We've got here this one where you can see the puck just slipping out of the reach of Philip Grubauer. That was on the second goal of the game there. And then we've got a nice little fight from who else but the Pepper Pot, Yanni Gord, where you can see him connecting right there and the reaction of the referee. Take a second, admire both of those by our photographer, Liv Lyons, that day at the April 13th game. We'll go into our player of the week here before we get into discussion of the games. Player of the week for Jared McCann. Jared didn't necessarily have numbers that burst off of the page over the past 3 games. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. That came in the Arizona game. But the 40-goal season and him being the all-time leading goal scorer for the team, sitting at 67, 14 more than the second-place scorer, Jordan Eberle, at 43. Him being the first ever player to sign, and we'll keep that up, and so you can see it when it comes down. You can kind of see it underneath there. But him being the first player to sign an extension with the Kraken ever, and obviously meant a lot to some fans, talking about wanting to win a Stanley Cup here with the Kraken, talking about how Seattle is special to him. That meant a lot. And so for him to go out and have a career year is really special. So it's really nice to have that from Jared. The Arizona game, Seattle did what they needed to. They took care of business against a bad Coyotes team. I mentioned it last week, and a friend of mine got a good laugh at it. They can't even tank right. They won too many games, so they have really slim chances to land the top pick for Connor Bedard. Those Las Vegas games, though, were tough. That one on the road was just relatively ugly. Seattle looked gassed. It was the second game of a back-to-back. They just didn't look ready for it. That one on the 13th, though, Seattle, they had the energy all game long. Their expected goals was higher. They just weren't able to get that one in. And the first goal that Vegas had was one that came on a bad bounce. Vince Dunn tried to clear the puck up the ice. Riley Smith of Las Vegas had his his skate in the right spot. Philip Grubauer wasn't expecting it. It slipped in. That can't pin that one on anybody. Obviously, unfortunate that it came on Vince Dunn trying to clear the puck up the ice, but it's tough. And then that second one, actually, it was interesting because Daniel Sprong came back after being in the penalty box. And so it was technically 5-on-5 hockey, but because the Golden Knights were in, I believe they were on a delayed penalty, it was technically an undermanned opportunity. Vegas just had too much time in the crease. They were able to move the puck around without resistance and essentially pass the puck around Philip Grubauer to get that one in. That came on this play where you can see him just reaching out for it. So that one you got to be better about clearing people out of the crease and doing it fairly. I know Vincent's talked about it in the past where it's not just as easy as pushing people out of the way. So yeah, just unfortunate that you weren't able to push through and get more there. Jaden Schwartz had a really nice goal for the only score that Seattle got in that 13th loss to Las Vegas. But no, Seattle had waves of pressure. And if they're able to generate that sort of thing in the playoffs, then they're going to be good to go. And so I mentioned that we've got our little Stanley Cup playoff, the little placards that they were giving out at the game that they clinched. So got that there. I'm going to leave that in the studio here. I don't take too much stock out of those last few games. I mean, the one against Arizona, again, you took care of business there. It was nice to see in the last few minutes Joey Decord get to go on the ice as a former Arizona State Sun Devil there and be able to play in that building of Mullet Arena in essentially his home building, right? The game to Vegas in the back-to-back, again, it's the second game of a back-to-back. They just clinched the playoffs. I wouldn't take too much stock in it. It's disappointing to lose to the Golden Knights there. And if you wanted to really have that third overall spot in the division and play in Edmonton, then you would have needed to win that game, or it might have depended on actually if you beat the Golden Knights. And then that one on the 13th, once we found out that the Kings had won, it didn't really necessarily matter that much at all, except for Vegas, who needed to win that one if they wanted to lock up those spots that I mentioned. So I wouldn't take too much stock in it, but it was good to see them have that sort of pressure generated throughout the entirety of that game there, and that does bring some encouragement in there. So something that doesn't was some injury-related stuff that we've got here on the 13th. Just after that game against the Golden Knights, it was announced that forward Andrei Burakovsky will miss the start of the playoffs. He had a surgical procedure to address a reoccurring lower body injury. The reports that I got were that he would have been good to go this week, but he had a setback occur. So he had that procedure. From what I understand, he could make it. He could join the team later on in the playoffs into the playoff run, but you want to get this sort of thing taken care of. I mean, he's in the first year of a 5-year deal. He missed the last 32 games of the season. I'm not too worried about it. Again, he's going to be a key player for you for the next few years to come, but you don't want this injury getting messed up even worse. And then, he's not a productive player for you over the course of his contract. So hoping that Berkey heals up, hoping that things are better sooner rather than later for him. We've got some other team-related news as the Kraken signed a few younger players to entry-level contracts and made an interesting roster move over the past week, so we'll go over that. April 10th, the team signed forward David Goyette to a contract. They signed him to a two-way, 3-year deal at $950,000 AAV. Yes, I said that right. Okay. Goyette is expected to report to Seattle's AHL affiliate, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. He spent the entire 2022-23 season playing for the Sudbury Wolves of the OHL, which is the Ontario Hockey League, totaling 92 points, 41 goals, and 51 assists in 63 regular season games, and setting OHL career highs in goals, assists, points, power play goals, shorthanded goals, and game-winning goals. He led the Wolves in goals, points, power play goals, and game-winning goals, and his 51 assists were the second best mark on his team. His offensive output also placed him in the top 10 in the OHL in goals and game-winning goals and earned him Sudbury's nomination for the Red Tilson Trophy, which is awarded annually to the OHL's most outstanding player during the regular season. The 5'10", 172-pound forward has totaled 165 points in 129 regular season OHL games. In 2021-22, he concluded the regular season as a finalist for the Rookie of the Year award, leading all rookies and his team in goals and points. He was the recipient of the 4 Wolves year-end awards at the end of the 2021 regular season, including the Bud Burke Top Rookie, Bill Plant Top Scorer, Most Goals, and the Pete Shills Award for Most Assists. That same day, the team reassigned forward Shane Wright to the Firebirds, after his OHL team, the Windsor Spitfires, I almost said Firebirds again, ended quickly as the team was eliminated in the first round, even though they had finished the regular season off as one of the top teams in the OHL. So Shane has played in the last few games for the Firebirds as they build up for the playoffs, and we'll have more of the AHL news here. If you follow us on our YouTube in the Futures follow-up report. So keep an eye on that. Make sure you follow us on YouTube as well, or subscribe. Same thing. On April 11th, the team signed forward Logan Morrison to an entry-level contract. He signed a 3-year entry-level deal as the same amount as Goyette at $950,000 AAV. He split the 22-23 season between the Hamilton Bulldogs and the Ottawa 67s of the OHL, serving as Hamilton's captain before being acquired by Ottawa in a midseason trade. He totaled 94 points, 40 goals, 54 assists. Okay. In 56 regular season games and all, setting career highs in goals, power play goals, shorthanded goals, and game-winning goals. His 94 points were good for 7th in the entire OHL and led all Ottawa skaters, and it marked the second consecutive year that he recorded at least 90 points in a season. Morrison was named Ottawa's best forward at the conclusion of the regular season and is his team's nominee for the Red Tilson Trophy as the OHL's most outstanding player, just like we mentioned with Goyette. The 6-foot, 180-pound center has totaled 273 goals, 273 points, 111 goals, 162 assists in 222 regular season OHL games with the Hamilton Bulldogs and Ottawa 67s. He set an OHL career high with 100 points in 21-22, becoming just the second player in Hamilton franchise history to record 100 points in a season. So a nice couple forwards there to sign for the prospect pool of the Kraken. I know there's been some odd criticism of the Kraken prospect pool, considering they've been around for 2 years and they have a good amount of talent, as we mentioned with our futures account. But I digress. On the 14th, the team reassigned goaltender Joey Daccord to the OHL Coachella Valley Firebirds, as he had been up in a emergency capacity, and it's expected that Martin Jones's health is back enough where they don't need to have Daccord up here in that emergency capacity. So next up, the NHL playoffs. If you aren't aware, the NHL playoffs are universally regarded as the most exciting time in all of American sports. So again, we're going to keep this up here. They start today at 4 p.m. Thankfully, the Kraken don't play today, or else it would be a really big day. They play tomorrow, which makes it also a really big day. But we'll look here. Yeah, so they start at 4 p.m. today with the Islanders and the Hurricanes. That's in the Eastern Conference, so we don't need to worry about them yet. The Kraken ended the regular season with a 46-win, 28-loss, 8 overtime loss record, standing at 4th in the Pacific Division at 100 points. So next up, we found out that their opponent is the Colorado Avalanche, the former team of Philip Grubauer and Andrei Burakovsky. It's going to be this. I mean, this is the first ever playoff series in Kraken history, and they do so against the defending champs. The defending champs will be without top player Gabriel Landeskog, who has missed the entire season. He's not going to be able to make it for the playoffs here. So, round 1 versus the Avalanche. The first 2 games are going to be in Colorado as the team, as Colorado clinched the top spot in the Central Division. April 18th at Colorado is game 1. That's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. April 20th is game 2 with a 6:30 p.m. start in Colorado. Then the series switches over to Seattle after 2 games. April 22nd is game 3, the first ever Kraken playoff game in franchise history. That's a 7 p.m. start. We'll see you there for that. And April 24th versus the Avalanche at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's next Monday. So we'll go from recording to CPA, which is game 4. If necessary, the remaining 3 games of that series would be April 26th at the Avalanche, so we go back over to Colorado. If we need game 6, it would come back here to Seattle on April 28th versus the Avalanche. And then if they need a game 7, my heart hopes not, April 30th on the road in Colorado. All of those times are still to be announced, but it's more likely to be determined if they need those games. So first ever Kraken playoff series. We'll put those back on the board one more time if you need that. First 2 games in Colorado, the next 2 on the road.